Hello, Mia DeBolt here, bringing you more transparency in trading. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey to the seven-figure funded mark. So today I have a special episode for you because I do have a lot to cover. I have some wins, I have some losses, and then I also have an update to my FTMO accounts as well as the 8cap account on the funded trader. So let's start with the day that I had yesterday. So today is my last day of the FTMO challenge. Yesterday was the day before, so I just want to share with you kind of what my thinking was. I was at 3% and I was thinking that I had one more day to trade and get 2% so that I was at the 5% mark. So the 5% mark is pretty special the day before the last day of phase 1 because you might be able to get a 2-week extension. So if you're at that 5% or above, you can ask for that 2-week extension and FTMO should be able to extend that challenge for you so that you don't have to start all the way back at zero. So without further ado, let's see what I took as trades yesterday, and then we can move forward and I can share with you more about my trading today. Okay, so yesterday's trading was CPI. The CPI numbers came out at 5:30, and you can see here that it dropped down below to grab some sell side before it jumped up and took some buy side. So it did jump up and take 2 daily highs as well as the previous day high, and so it did have liquidity down below and it just was oscillating back and forth. So this is kind of where I jumped in, and I kind of slept in because I wasn't sleeping very well. And so what I did was I just waited for the New York Stock Exchange to open, and it did. It dropped down into that 15-minute fair value gap, respected that, and then jumped up. And so I did have a buy here. I was waiting for that 5-minute fair value gap to go and explode and maybe even go for more buy side liquidity. However, it didn't necessarily go that direction. So it was one-sided this way, and there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity for me to jump in. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward this, and you can see here it is pretty one-sided to the downside. And so that's something that I'm going to take away as a lesson. It was something that I was looking at and I was nervous to actually jump in. However, I have a new protocol. So I wanted to update you. I have a couple of things that I've been implementing as far as accountability with my trading partner. And so we are doing this to really hold ourselves accountable, to kind of slow down in our trading, and I found myself kind of thinking about that. So what we're doing is we're actually posting our charts with our confirmations in our Slack channel. And so I did that prior to this trade. So something about me is I love to follow through with what I promise to myself and to others. And so that's something that I really hold in high regard. I think that the world of people who do that as well. And so it's something that I love to do is keep my word. And so when I posted that chart, I kind of felt committed to that trade. So that's something that I have to take on and kind of reassess whether or not this actually fits my trade plan, whether or not this is actually a trade that I want to take. And so you can see here already it's creating displacement to the downside. So there's already warning signs that this is not a trade that I should be in. And what I did to mitigate that was I actually split my risk. So originally I was going to come in at 1%, and I ended up with 0.5% as my risk. So fortunately it was a very quick loss. So I'm just going to spoil it right here. It just came down like a falling knife. And, you know, I've been in trades like this before, and because my mind was kind of muddled as far as keeping my word, it was something that I ended up losing. So I was banking on this being under the algorithm open, that this maybe 5-minute breaker was going to hold price up, and that we're down in a discount, so 50% of this swing. However, what I didn't do was tune into ICT's his live stream where he was actually saying that this could be attacked. So, you know, in retrospect, I don't care as far as that. I was managing my risk, so I only lost 0.51%, and you'll see that my original position was a lot lower. It still would have lost, so I have no regrets for this. It was something that I could have gotten out right here when price was kind of stalling. It did look like it might turn around and I might get lucky, but it just powered right through. Okay, so let's fast forward this. It is a 0.51% loss. I was at 3% for the morning, and so I did lose 0.51%, which brought me down to 2.58%. All right, so I got stopped out fairly quickly there, probably within 5 minutes or so, and that's okay with me. I just moved on and continued to power through because I only had one day to really make up 2%. So now I have to make up 2.5%. So that was kind of in the back of my head as well. All right, so I'm going to fast forward this to my next trade because I took 2 trades in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. And so I'm reassessing kind of where we're at in the market, looking at the DXY as well, comparing the NASDAQ, comparing S&P, and I saw this market structure shift. So here's the other thing about my morning. I was really fixated on the liquidity pool up here being purged. And so because I was really fixated on that, that was my bias for the morning and for the day. And so that was kind of where I was fixated on it, and I wasn't watching price action for what it was doing. So this is, you know, the 1 minute fair value gap. I have that highlighted here on my MT4. And I'm expecting the 1 hour, this old 1 hour fair value gap to hold price up, and for that 5 minute fair value gap to hold price up. So it very possibly could have that breaker right there because there was a fair value gap there. There's an order block here. And so it's just a matter of just not being on the right side of the market and not being in flow with the price action. So I wasn't watching that. It touched consequent encroachment, went down and kind of oscillated up. And so I am watching price action, but how much pain I go through with my trades as far as like holding them too long, that's something that I'm working on. So once something is not reacting the way that I want, like not accelerating to the upside, you know, it does give me a little bit of hope here and it is starting to accelerate. However, it just starts creeping down again. So that's kind of indications that it's not necessarily continuing up. It's not accelerating past that short-term high here on the 1 minute, and it's just not behaving the way that I want. So let's just watch kind of where it goes and how it reacts to these other fair value gaps that hold price down. Okay, so we also have kind of like a 15-minute breaker here, so I was kind of a little bit nervous about that, and that was something that I should have just listened to my gut. Okay, so I'm going to continue, and I'm not even in this trade yet, but I do have my, indications that it might be coming up, it might just be flagging. And so I have that 1 minute fair value gap, and I'm just watching this. I do enter on the impulse up, and that's where I'm expecting this 1 minute fair value gap to hold and for this to continue up. So I didn't wait for the acceleration and the break in market structure there. So again, it's collapsing and it's really anemic in the actual expansion. So the expansion is not happening, and so that's just warning signs. It's coming back to this 5 minute fair value gap, just touching the top of it, and it's going down to the consequent encroachment of that 1 minute fair value gap. So what I am doing though is I'm just watching this. I have 0.5% on this as well because it is a highly manipulated day and I'm really not in sync with the market yet. And so the reason that I didn't go down to 0.25% is because it is the second to last day. I have some bullets to spare, and quite frankly, 0.25% doesn't do much in way of moving the needle when it comes down to challenges. So I like to do 0.5% at the least. Okay, so I'm just going to speed this up because it does look promising for a little bit. and it comes up here. However, the one tall tale sign is that it doesn't speed through this short-term high. It just creates kind of a short-term high as well, and it's almost like an equal high. So that's kind of another indication it's just not accelerating. There's no caffeine bars to the upside, and it just looks more like a lower time frame flag and a 15-minute flag. So there are a lot of warning signs here. It's just kind of playing around here, and there's a new week open gap here. So in this yellow, there's a new week open gap that's also creating resistance, and so that's another thing that I was kind of watching and just didn't kill the trade because I just didn't. So I held on to the trade. It continues up and just keeps kind of accumulating down here underneath the new week open gap. Looks like it's going to start accelerating up, and it collapses down again. In fact, it collapses down all the way, so it just starts coming down. I have this order block set in this 1 minute fair value gap, and that's really where I should have just closed the trade right there, because it's not respecting that order block. It's not respecting that 1 minute fair value gap, and now it's accelerating down. So I really didn't have a whole lot of time before this trade just ended up failing. So what is good about this is that this is the morning session. I just closed it out. It did end up going down all the way to this new week open gap, and so that's something that I chose to do. Is I lost 1% in the morning, and I just walked away. So that was a good decision, and I came back in the afternoon to see if there's other opportunities. So on that second trade, I lost 0.51% for a total of 1.02% in the morning, and so that brought me to a balance of 2.07. So I still had some profit to play with in the afternoon session, and so let's just take a look at the trade that I took. Okay, so this is the PM session, and I actually took a trade, and it was a sell. So I have my sell confirmations here. The thing about this day is that I just wasn't on side. I wasn't flowing with the market, and you can see this in my trading. So I'm really trying to force agendas that really are not there. So again, I was really fixated on that. I have the big swing here, and so we're up in a premium, and I'm trying to sell. And one of the things that I like to do is when price is trending, this is a good thing. The algorithm open, or the midnight open of the algorithm, that's a really good time to buy or sell because price is really sensitive there. However, on Tuesday, it just wasn't necessarily a great place, because if you see this big expansion here, it is going to a premium. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's coming down for this sell side liquidity yet. So it is 10:41 in the morning, and so I am expecting the algorithm to go down, and so I have this break in market structure that I'm looking for, and so this is giving me enough displacement that I'm seeing this volume imbalance, and I am expecting that to act as resistance. So this is where I'm selling when I need to be just waiting for this kind of pullback. Okay, so I entered the sell when it did go up a little bit. I waited for that pullback, and it does end up going a little bit in my direction. And so you can see though that this is just a big flag. So it's 1, 2, 3, and there's only 2 real impulses up, and so I'm not even in the 3-wave pattern, and it's just not a really high quality trade. It is in a premium. I am selling in a premium, but you can see that there's a lot of oscillation, a lot of accumulation here, and so it basically could go either way. Okay, so one thing that I do is towards the end, it does just oscillate back and forth for quite a while, so I'm just going to speed this up to kind of where I trim my risk. I trim my risk to about 50% of that wick, so I don't want it to go any higher than that, and so that does end up saving a little bit of liquidity. And so here's the thing, I have what I'm looking for. So there's a 1 minute fair value gap and a volume imbalance, and so I have those marked up, and I am waiting for those to hold. So you can see here I am going to actually put a little thought bubble, and I really like those because it not just helps me kind of think out loud and type out loud what it is that I'm thinking, but I can also see it and be able to see if price is reacting the way that I want. So you can see that I want this to actually run away, and here's where I'm putting the thought bubble up. So I want price to run away from this 1 minute fair value gap. So ICT actually says that when a 1 minute fair value gap is traded through, it acts as resistance, and once it's traded back to it, it's reclaimed. So it's a reclaimed fair value gap. I want that to just start accelerating to the downside. And so that's kind of where I'm looking at the price here, and it's just, again, anemic. It's not really accelerating too much. It doesn't break much structure. It has kind of equal lows, and now it's going. So that price action is making me feel a little bit more comfortable. However, we're coming up to the close of the hour. So 11 o'clock is coming up. It's again oscillating back and forth, so it doesn't just leave that fair value gap as a breakaway gap. And so that's kind of where I'm getting a little bit more nervous. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward this because, again, I want to see price run away from this, and that's really what I'm expecting. And I kind of like to see the reclaimed fair value gaps only revisited twice. However, you're going to see that it actually happens 3 times. And so I'm going to fast forward this because I want that fair value gap to be open. I want this one to be a breakaway gap, and so it doesn't. And pretty soon I'm just going to kill the trade. So I'm really not liking that this looks more like a flag. It's not looking like an impulse down, and so it's not one way, and it's just not reacting the way that I want. All right, so I end up closing it, and I only lost 0.25% on this trade. So just look at the time, it's 11:03, and so it trades through that fair value gap. However, it ends up closing below it, and so that's kind of another indication that it's just a reclaimed fair value gap, and then it does end up running away. So look at this price action right away. So just 2 minutes after I close my trade for a negative 0.25%, it actually drops down. So it drops down one more time after this short-term low is taken, but it does end up just being a flag. And so I really have no regrets for this. Yes, I could have made a little bit from this trade. I think the potential for it would have been 0.64% because I only had 0.5% on it. But when it comes down to it, I'm better off having been out of that, because who knows if I had actually closed that at the low. So that's kind of where I'm just really happy that I preserved my capital. It was only a small little loss, and I ended the day with 1.82%. It does end up going down and filling some more of that fair value gap, reacting from the New York Stock Exchange open and reacting from that 1 hour fair value gap. So that's where it does end up turning around, and I would have been stopped out. So that's, again, another good reason to have close my trade when it wasn't reacting the way that I want. And I will also take note that sometimes fair value gaps can be reclaimed 3 times. So that's a lesson that I had learned. And so that was the end of my trading day. So that was yesterday. That was Tuesday, the 14th. And it was Valentine's Day, so I had other things to do with my day. And so I closed that out, and that was the end of the trading day, and it was a negative day. So I lost 1.27 over the course of the day with 3 trades, having risked only 0.5% on each of them, and I ended the day with 1.82%. So I didn't meet my 5% goal that I had for the day, which is fine, because FTMO and pretty much every prop firm actually gives you a repeat as long as you are profitable with your account. So that's kind of what I had in mind for the trading session that started today. Okay, to start the session off for today's session, Wednesday, we did have another red folder event at 5:30, and so I was looking at the drop. There's fairly equal lows, and I was waiting for the New York Stock Exchange open to open. So I had my 1 minute fair value gaps and my volume imbalances created, and so I was looking looking for that sell. I was looking for the daily lows to be taken, and I was expecting the dollar to go higher. So I am analyzing more of the dollar, and so there's a lot of bullishness that could have happened with the dollar. It was starting to push up. So this is my trade for the morning. All right, so I'm going to play with this, and okay, so I do have this measured out. I am in a premium. There's a 5-minute fair value gap, and I'm looking to sell. So I just entered that, and again, I am not really reading price action in the way that there are fair value gaps and impulses and market structure shifts. There's a short-term high that was taken, so I do have to endure some drawdown because of this. So I'm going to fast forward. So I do have 1.82% in the morning. And so this trade here is a 1% trade. Okay, so this 1-minute fair value gap was being respected. The 5-minute fair value gap was where I got stopped out, but because I had trimmed my risk, I only lost 0.9%. And so I was at 0.92% for my day. So again, you get a repeat on FTMO or pretty much every prop firm when you are profitable. You only have to be like 0.01% profitable in order to get a repeat. So I really had nothing to lose. I was going into this morning knowing that I was going to be aggressive, and aggressive doesn't necessarily mean smart in trading. So that's kind of where I definitely could have waited for higher prices and just waited to be patient for the turnaround up here, because there was a 1-minute breaker there and it was 6:44. So that's typically when I like to trade, is at least 15 minutes past the New York equity. So it's kind of early for me to enter on the first one. So okay, so this is the beginning of my second trade for the morning. This is where I was looking at that 5-minute fair value gap as resistance, and I was also looking at this as a 5-minute breaker. So what I wasn't looking at was the bodies of the candles. So the bodies of the candles are telling the story, as ICT says. And so what it's really telling me is actually it's going up, because look at this big impulse up, and it wasn't necessarily a bearish day, because we do have some buy side up here, sell side has been taken, and so that's kind of where I should have sat on my hands, because we are at equilibrium of that last swing. So here's where I enter. You can see that I have 0.9% that I lost, and I'm at 0.92%, so I still have a little bit to play with. And so this is only a 0.5% trade, and so I'm looking for this fair value gap to be encroached upon, and it really just ends up being a very short-term trade. So it does end up going down. I'm just positioning this because it's more accurate there. And so it does impulse down, and it does fill some of that imbalance, as well as go down to this breaker, and then it starts reacting. I close it out, and I got 0.13 back from the morning session. And so it really is a decision point. So 1.05, I'm happy with that. And had I had 2 more weeks, it probably would have been a great thing. However, I wasn't at that 5% yesterday. So I'm just calling it a day, really, and just looking at some of the price action. It's so choppy that it doesn't seem like it's one-sided at all. It's not really running for liquidity. It's really choppy. So I am looking for that repeat, and that's kind of where the end of the day, I just keep watching price action and just keep marking things up, but I don't take any more trades. That is until I tell my trading partner that I am done for the day and I'm going to go for the repeat for FTMO, and he tells me something pretty special. So we kind of got a gift from the 8-cap gods today. So I don't think I necessarily have to go over my static trades of how they would have turned out. All of the trades that I took yesterday and today on my FTMO would have gotten stopped out at the full amount. And so it's just a testament to kind of being eager to passing or getting to a certain goal and not really looking at price action and not really following my trade plan. It's not like I have a whole year to actually work with the same account. So it's okay. I totally give myself some grace to be aggressive towards the end of a challenge because really I had nothing to lose. As long as I didn't make any trading errors, meaning that I risked 2% instead of 1% or 2% instead of 0.5%. As long as I didn't do that, I pretty much did what I could to pass the challenge. And so I didn't, and I get a repeat. So once I get my credentials tonight, I'll be inputting that into my FTMO and starting back from ground zero with that account. So I will be looking for a really high quality trade for my very first trade, and I'll also be looking to build that profit cushion. And so that's kind of my plan for my repeat. I am going to look to be a little bit more aggressive because I feel like I was a little conservative with the last 30 days. So that's something that I might do differently. So the gift from the 8 cap gods, I want to kind of share that with you because it's something that I've never seen before on an MT4 or a challenge, and I've been doing challenges for over a year now. So it's something that I have never seen, but I won't shirk any kind of free gifts. And this definitely was a free gift today. So I'm going to share this video with you because my partner actually shared with me that 8 cap had a delay today of a couple of minutes. So it was kind of like being able to see into the future and take trades based on where the market was going, because TradingView was real time and 8 cap was a little delayed. So that was something that I took advantage of, because if you're going to see $100 or $1,000 sitting on the ground in front of you, are you just going to walk away and not take it and just say, oh well, somebody else deserves it? Or are you going to take advantage of it and pick it up and spend it if you want to, or invest it, whatever you want to do? So that's kind of where I just saw this as an opportunity. So we had an amazing opportunity this morning to take advantage of this delay in the 8 cap MT4. And so I was a little tentative at first because I wasn't quite sure how to actually play with this, but I just dove right in. So you can see that it's a couple of minutes behind. So there's a bearish candle up here, but it's not actually bearish here yet. So there's a few minutes behind, and you can see that it's kind of advantageous. Now, it's only advantageous if it's a trending market, if you can actually see the big expansions and take advantage of those. So it was my very first trade, I was in kind of a consolidation, and so it wasn't very advantageous. It would have been really great here, but I didn't actually see this until my trading partner told me about it. So again, this is a kind of gift. And really, it's not that I feel like I'm owed by 8 cap at all, but if you've been following my journey, you know that I've had some challenges with 8 cap and their spreads and being knocked out of trades before, or not even with FTMO, even though it was the same trade. And so it's not like I feel like I'm owed by them at all, but this is kind of like where it resets. So FTMO I reset, and the funded trader, it feels like I kind of reset back to before some of the trades that I took that I got knocked out prematurely. Okay, so you can see that it's going up, and I did close my trade out at break even because I wasn't quite sure if it was going to continue up or if it was going to go down, so I was just waiting for more information. And so TradingView is going to give that to me pretty soon. And so here's where TradingView starts dropping, and the 8 cap is still up. So I choose to sell, and it's just a short-term sell. So I choose to sell. There's still, obviously there's still some things to consider as far as where liquidity is going to draw to. Is it going to go all the way down there to the bottom, to the short-term low, or is it going to retract and start going up again? So you can kind of see that there's a 1 minute breaker, 1 minute fair value gap, and it is holding price up, and so this is a short-term sell. So I'm just going to fast forward this. It's really fun to watch, and it's something that I've never seen before, and I don't know if they'll ever have that again, but I'll definitely be watching for it. Okay, so here's where it drops, and like 3 or 4 minutes behind. So I end up closing that trade at 0.13, and I close that before it ends up going up. So again, I just wait for kind of the expansion, see where market is going, and this is not where it's going. It's not going down anymore. And so it starts accelerating up. It takes the short-term high, and so I end up buying. Who wouldn't take advantage of this if you see it? So I'm sure there's a lot of other traders that were profitable today because of this delay. Okay, so I look for a real-time liquidity pool, and here's where 8cap catches up. All right, so 8cap is already caught up. They jumped to real-time trading view, and so it's already caught up, and I'm in this trade. And that's okay, because I do really believe that the buy-side liquidity was going to be taken. And so this is a quality trade. It has a breaker, it has a 1-minute fair value gap that held price up, and it also has the algorithm open right here. So I end up continuing with this trade. My buy-side liquidity is where my TP is, and so it ends up accelerating up and taking my TP. So it does end up going even further. However, I'm really happy with those profits. So I did end up closing out for the day, and I closed with 1.48% with the funded trader. And I don't feel bad about it, because quite frankly, it's kind of like a gift from the universe, whatever. So I'm really grateful that this opportunity happened. It's not how I, of course, want to trade. I have this skill set, and I think I've been proving it. And it's something that I had a lot of fun with my trading partner. He actually got a whole lot more out of the market today than I did, and I'm totally okay with that. Okay, so I do want to share where my accounts are now. And FTMO, like I said, I didn't pass the profit target, but I did pass everything else. So I should be getting a repeat here at the end of the day. They should be giving me a new credentials to enter into my MT4. And then the funded trader, I have a little profit. So I started the day off with, I think, 0.34, and I have a net profit of 1.86 now. So it does kind of bring me back up to where I was before I started kind of my losing streak of the spreads and everything with the funded trader. So it's something that I will take and I'll run with. So I have 14 more days with the funded trader. So that's kind of what I'm going to be focused on until I have something that's really, really along my trade plan and something that really is high quality. And with a trending market, I don't believe that I'm going to be trading my FTMO account, but who knows, we'll see. Okay, so that's the update to my trading accounts. I hope that you got something out of this. If not, more proof that the algorithm exists and that ICT is a really great mentor to follow and to learn from. So if you haven't already, subscribe below so that you're following this entire journey where I share my ups and downs to that 7-figure mark, because it's not all going to be ups, and I'm certainly not going to stay down. So I look forward to sharing more trades with you, and we'll talk to you in the next video. See you soon. Bye.